when he is sitting with those two guys that want to make money off of him to go on tour and exploit him basically because he's insane, that winning hat, like, talk about irony. Are you kidding? You're about to hit the bottom of a 30-year run of substance abuse, and you're traveling around the country with a hat that says winning because you're suing like the people that fired you because you were a drug addict.
The even more fucked up thing about that is that there were people at those shows that were all over him saying winning. It's like, really? You think a crackhead, just because he's a celebrity, is winning? It just shows how messed up we as a society have gotten if that is what you're calling winning.
Welcome to the Sober Curator podcast, where sobriety isn't just a lifestyle choice, it's the ultimate life hack. I'm Elise Bryson, your fearless guide to a world where hangovers are canceled, fun is mandatory, and we still know how to shut down a dance floor, just with better shoes.
And I'm Tamara Routley, aka T-Bouge, your co-pilot, chaos coordinator, and the one who keeps Elise from turning this podcast into a full-blown reality show. Buckle up, sober party people.
From lifestyle and travel to pop culture and zero-proof cocktails, we're serving up the stories, trends, and guests that prove sobriety isn't just about what you're missing. It's about finally remembering where you left your keys. Let's get the party started. Welcome back to the Sober Curator podcast, where the booze is gone, but the glam is not. I'm your host, Elise Bryson, and we've got the full Curator TV watching squad on deck to dig into Netflix's brand new Charlie Sheen documentary. Hopefully somebody has tiger blood today. Do we love it? Do we hate it? Or is this just another Hollywood train wreck glamorizing addiction? We'll spill all that tea and more, so you better buckle up, because it's going to get spicy. Before we jump into the details of Mr. Sheen, let's introduce the posse that we have here. And I'm going to start with Amy because she's the one with balls on her face.
Hi.
For those of you that are listening and not watching, this is yet the 8,000th reason why you should be watching on YouTube, because you could be seeing Amy rubbing balls on her face. Yeah. Dr. Sarah is wondering why she's here. She's like, I don't know how I got to be part of this crew, but you have a t-shirt, so it's official.
Exactly. Yes. And I don't have any balls, which I'm upset about.
Tomorrow.
The balls are on the way. I just hit send.
Okay. All right. Okay. So that's Dr. Sarah and T-Bouge. Megan Swan, welcome to the show. You look like you're thrilled to be part of this group today.
Listed so far.
Megan has a ball.
And Carolyn, as the baby in the group, I don't think that you've graduated to getting balls yet. I don't think you're in the right age bracket for balls. Oh, you have balls. You have balls. I had no idea. Well, look at that. All right.
She's a baller.
So this is, yes, in addition to using these tools to chisel our chins, it is also how we let each other know that somebody wants to talk, because you guys aren't going to believe this. We have a tendency to talk over each other in our excitement over spilling all the juicy details that we like to spill on these shows. Also, just as a friendly reminder, if you don't want to hear any spoilers, you should probably just turn this off right now, because we're terrible at basically telling you absolutely everything that's going to happen and what we think about it. So that you don't even need to watch the show. And maybe that's the bonus. All right. Well, let's get started. Who wants to get this party started? Really? Bueller?
I'm game. I mean, I was impressed. I really enjoyed it. And without going down too many rabbit holes, of which there are many, it was a bit of a shock to me, because Apocalypse Now was a big part of my childhood. My father was obsessed with that movie. It was the first totally inappropriate for a child to watch movie that he showed me. So seeing like the background family side of its production was, I guess, heartwarming in a weird way. And yeah, I think my overriding question is, do we know the tea on why Martin Sheen didn't want to be, officially involved? Because he's very thoroughly laced with throughout it. And I think it's represented as, a very loving father. So I feel like there's something to that.
I find him very attractive, Martin Sheen, for an older fella.
I mean,
I just want to put that out there.
One of my favorite shows for so many years. He plays a good authority figure.
It was interesting that he was going through alcohol withdrawal on the set of Apocalypse Now, and that's where he got sober. I mean, I didn't know that story.
Yeah.
That was pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I also loved how they, he talked about their family dynamic, like during that time, how he used to take them all with him to set. Mm-hmm. And that's where they learned a lot of stuff too, right? Like he openly says that, they could see that he was drinking, and there's sometimes he'd pop up back into a scene like right when, he was pretty loaded. So it was really fascinating hearing how they all used to hang out so much and spend a lot of time with him. Like, no idea. It was, I really enjoyed that part of it. And they showed all these clips of when they were younger and doing all these cool things together. So,
well, who doesn't want Sean Penn as your bestie growing up?
Right?
True.
Isn't that wild? Like, I kept thinking about, for those of us who grew up, I mean, us Gen Xers watching these movies, right? And all of these kids. And then, there's like the whole, also there's Rob Lowe and all the cast of The Outsiders. And there's like this whole community that it seems like they all kind of grew up together and then they all became famous. It's just kind of, I love that stuff. It sucked me in.
I'm going to give away one spoiler right now because, Amy, I have to know how you felt about this, because of this group, I think you maybe would have had the strongest feelings. But Charlie Sheen coulda, shoulda been the Karate Kid instead of Ralph Macchio. And so were you okay when you heard that news?
No, I was not okay. In fact, I thought about you. I almost called you because I totally was in that moment of, as a parent, of like, I get that his dad was trying to encourage him, to build his word in the industry. Well, you already committed to this, so you need to do this. And, there'll be other opportunities. Like, I feel like I've had that conversation with my mom a million times, right? So I have mad respect for it. But also, the fact that he could have been the Karate Kid, didn't even know that. I had no idea. And so I was just like, what? So, yeah. That was rough.
I feel like he spun it that like it was, maybe he dodged a bullet at the same time. For me, the piece was the Ferris Bueller's Day. Like, I've always loved that scene. And I had no idea that was like one of his first important roles.
Such a good scene. It was such a good scene.
Like, well, I kind of made me wonder, like, where would he have ended up if he had become the Karate Kid? Kind of like he talked about, right? Like, that went down a very, it seemed like kind of narrow path where it was very, very popular, but then he kind of got pigeonholed into that role. And so how would his life have ended up differently? Would it have been better or worse? Where would his career have gone? So I thought that was really interesting to think about from that perspective.
And to be clear, no shade on Ralph Macchio. I mean, I'm just saying, but I just thought that was an interesting twist. I was like, wait, what? So,
well, maybe a little shade because I really don't like Ralph in the newer versions of Karate Kid. It didn't work for me at all. So maybe a little
Cobra
shade.
Kai. Yeah, it is super corny. Like, that is corny to the fullest.
To be fair, that's not always the actor's fault.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
There was a line that Charlie Sheen said, I know it was towards the beginning, which this was, Dr. Sarah, are you with me that this was way longer than maybe it needed to be? It felt like, I mean, it wasn't like Billy Joel long, but it felt pretty long.
Well, especially when 2.5 hours was his drunk-a-log, basically. Okay,
2.5 hours, 2.5 men. Mm-hmm. He said this line, and I didn't write it down totally correctly, so I'm going to butcher it now. But when you know a lot of shame about a lot of stuff, shameless, suffocating, but in the same wave, shame can turn into someone's North Star or their South Star or their Death Star.
I really liked a lot of his metaphors. Like,
he had good ones, right?
Over the menu being one of my favorites. Yeah, he had a lot of like interesting wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, he just seemed, and again, I can disagree with you guys. I love you all. He seems so detached from reality. I mean, I don't know. It's just like my perception. I liked all the beginning stuff and the movies and the family stuff. But at the same time, once that Ferris Bueller thing happened, and once he started getting into drugs and alcohol, like the train never stopped. And I just feel like for someone that had 35 years of wreckage, 3 marriages, family trauma, court, like his life was such a big shit show. And yet what I wanted to hear was like, wow, I really fucked up. I mean, I was a really sick addict, and have some fucking humility. I mean, you've destroyed people's lives. I mean, again, not that he's not like a sick addict and I have compassion, but his attitude activated me. His attitude, he had this crooked smile of someone who to me was still self-righteous and still pissed off and still, this like wanting people to get him and understand. Like, we've been watching you in the media, like bury yourself alive for 40 years. Like, what else do I need to understand? And yet nothing else came out. Like, what was the big news at the end? He slept with men? Oh, shocking. That, like, literally, that was like the fucking shocking news.
That was a bit of a buzzkill.
Addict. Like, of course you slept with men, but it was like this salacious, like, we're going to get to the secrets of Charlie Sheen in the last 15 minutes. And that was it. It's like, I don't know, you guys. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Okay, that's my rant.
I get it. I see your point of view. And also, I read his sly smile as like, that's just his personality. Like, he's just so fucking insecure. And I feel like that is what he was that's what he was meeting this with. Like, unless you dig deep in like, what was his motive of doing this right now? And like, kudos to get almost all your ex-wives willing to be interviewed on it.
Well, that's something I want to mention, though, is that, I mean, first of all, when I saw Denise Richards, I was like, oh my God.
My God.
Right? It had been so long since I'd seen her in anything. So to see her was almost shocking.
Yes.
But I talked about this with my wife after we watched the documentary, is that it was interesting, though, how all like his wives were in the documentary and they all still speak very fondly of him.
Yeah.
Like they talked about the shit show that he created. Like they talked about all the stuff that happened very open and candidly, but they also talked about that they still love him because deep down inside, he wasn't a bad guy. And I think that really kind of captures that, those of us who struggle with any type of addiction, we're not necessarily a bad person. We're just doing the wrong things. And I feel like with them at the end, you could really see like how he takes care of his kids now. And he's trying to, and he's only 7 years apparently sober. But I did think that meant a lot for his ex-wives to be there and actually talk positively about him. Right?
Yeah.
Here's what I want to say about his face. I actually thought I heard him own that he was terrible to his wives and kids. Like he did say that. Maybe he didn't say it enough, but like I do feel like he did say it. And I think there's been acknowledgement there. I think so. Earlier this week, there were some other things happening on TV performances, if you will, where I felt like they were performances. So I went down a rabbit hole, and where I ended up with, we have to remember people that have had a lot of work done, a lot of Botox, like those natural emotions won't come out of their face in the way we think they should sometimes. And I'm just bringing that up, Dr. Sarah, because I kind of feel like that was part of his thing was maybe, you know, some work had been done and maybe that's why his emotions weren't showing as much. And also, did anybody else but me think that, like, when he was, you know, at the end saying his big, deep, dark secret, did anyone think it was going to be like a donkey or something? Because I totally did.
Or a llama.
I think one of my favorite parts.
Or an elephant. Even worse. I mean, could you have
a tiger? It's going to be bigger than sleeping with a guy.
I would have been really upset.
I just didn't get why that was a big deal. I just didn't get that at all.
I mean, let's face it. If you're in recovery, most of us have slept with both sexes. I mean, I don't know, not to disclose, but I mean, it's not a unique thing when you listen to your sponsees. Okay, so.
True.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's like a very charismatic, little bit of narcissism, but I'm sure he's a wonderful human being, like most addicts are deep down. He probably was super generous. You know, he's probably delightful and lovely on some, you know, to hang out with. I mean, I'm sure there's like these great sides to him. I think what was so tricky was like, I just had this expectation there would be way more depth. I mean, it's like, what have you discovered in this 7 years? Like, you just made this 3-hour documentary, and most of it is like a rehash of the cocaine and the sex and it's like, I don't know. It just, that's what was missing for me. Like just, and I guess, yeah, you're right with the emotions thing. Maybe he has, but yeah, there's just this disconnect with the depth, like more depth or self-awareness. And it's funny. I read a bunch of reviews like the New York Times and all these newspapers in LA, and like every single one said the same thing. Like, wow. One woman said, by the end, I felt more sorry for all the people around him than I felt sorry for him. And it was like, yeah, it's
point,
like,
isn't it? Like, I don't think he was, I didn't get the impression he thinks we should feel sorry for him.
No. So, Sarah, are you saying that you wanted him to go deeper?
Yeah, I wanted to have him have some, like, he's been around the recovery world for what, 40 years. Okay. To me, the lack of awareness or insight, or even just a couple of comments about what recovery's been like. I mean, yeah, he said the thing about the shame, but that was like some twisted, like, oh, that's an interesting thing to say. What does it mean, Charlie? How has it been to have all that shame? What's your experience? I mean, I don't know. And maybe it's just because I expect people to go deeper, and that's just not reality. But I mean, he's probably been to a lot of therapy sessions in his life. You know what I'm saying? Like, has anything got in? I don't know. I'm being tough on him.
I had the same thought. Like, I was kind of curious, what was the reason behind all of this happening? Because I felt like there was something missing, right? Like, yeah, you went through this, you were an alcoholic, you were using drugs, but like, usually there's something behind it. But something that stuck out to me, and I think it was his brother that was talking about how he always felt like he didn't deserve the things that he had. Like, he was very, you know, lucky in a lot of ways in terms of his roles. But I feel like, you know, being a Nepo-baby and having, you know, his father go before him and having all these, you know, roles, maybe he just didn't feel like he had earned any of that, you know. Yeah. Well, and I had to wonder how much that was in it, you know, how much that played a part.
I think you're totally right. I think that was like the big point for me. And I think both his brother and is it John, somebody, the other actor from
John Cryer.
And I feel like that was the one interview where like maybe they're not talking. He agreed to do it, you know, because it didn't seem like there was a lot of, he was like very high level talking about his experience working with him. But the same thing, like he never felt like he deserved it. I think Sean Penn mentioned something the same thing. Like every time he would make a shit ton of money, it's like, what's the most efficient way to blow this? Like, I'll be an even more hardcore addict and do even crazier shit. And I think that completely screwed with his mind, that he was just handed everything. And no matter how much he fucked it up, it would still be handed to him again.
An interesting dynamic thinking about what that would be like to sort of live in the shadow of your dad and your brother. I mean, separate, but not, because your dad's always there, right? And he's created this amazing, cachet of a career. And I don't know, I think it would feel very strange to be kind of in that spot where, he's this big influence, but also you want to be separate because you're your own person, but you also want to be in the acting world. So it's like that weird, disjointed, I thought that was interesting kind of thing. And also his friendship with Tony, was it his name Tony? Was so sweet. That man who was just
Tony,
like,
we love you,
him.
Tony.
And I never partied with him. We love Tony.
Hearts for Tony.
Hearts for Tony. Because too, I think at least I needed that so much in my life, was somebody who could see past my disease to the person who I was, and know that somewhere in there, past all this garbly gunk, there's a quality individual, or what they thought was a quality individual somewhere in there. And I felt like Tony was that for him. And it just warmed my heart every time he came on screen.
Right. Absolutely.
Every addict needs a Tony.
Well, and I think
Tony.
Another thread of that story is how important sport was for him in the beginning. And, I think that's like a really important thing for youth today. Like those that don't have some sort of team, something to do outside of their screen, that's where the risks lie.
That's something else though, that, to have a Tony, I mean, he did a lot of awful things. And for someone like a Tony to stick by, I know I've had that. That also says a lot. I've had a lot of friends drop out of my life, but I've had a few friends that have been, since elementary school. They stood by me because they saw who I actually was. And I think that speaks volumes. If he didn't have anybody like that, then I probably would have been going, okay, well, maybe his wives are just crazy.
Well, they definitely are.
Well, they definitely are. Well, but you know what I mean? Like them saying he's actually a good guy at heart, right? Tony, I think men would be less, because I mean, his dad and his brother didn't even want to be in the documentary.
I know. I feel like there's a story there.
Well, you know what I was thinking? Why would they? I mean, think about it. The dad and the brother seem to be the most impacted because they're the closest. They've been suffering with this guy's addiction for 35 years. I mean, so I was thinking, why would they want to sit and talk about it? I mean, they probably spent the last 20 trying to recover from it. I mean, seriously. I mean,
he's always like the fact that he was doing all those press conferences. Like, I don't remember seeing any of those at the time. But that's like overkill to me, and like overly, I don't know. Like, it seemed like he was more than willing to be like the front facing advocate for this whole thing at one point.
Oh, the father?
Yeah.
Right. When he was trying to help him to get sober. Yeah. And then at some point, I think, just like enough.
I think reliving that would be really hard as, a relative or somebody. If you've already helped them go through it, it's like, what's the point? What am I going to get out of it,
I'll raise my balls to that.
Oh, balls up.
Winning.
Balls up.
That was the most disturbing thing in the whole show. So that tour at the end, when oh my God, I swear to God, I'm going to start crying. When he is sitting with those two guys that want to make money off of him to go on tour and exploit him basically because he's insane. That whole thing, because at the end he says he was suicidal and he was ready to kill himself. To think of him, those, oh my God, that winning hat, like talk about irony. Are you kidding? You're about to hit the bottom of a 30-year run of substance abuse, and you're traveling around the country with a hat that says winning because you're suing like the people that fired you because you were a drug addict. I mean, the whole thing was such insanity and the enabling to make money. It reminded me of that Anna Nicole Smith woman, just the people making money off of people's addictions. It's like, it makes me want to I was literally sick watching that part. That was so painful to me. Talk about shame. And he even said, thinking about those times when he's at some stadium or some, whatever, trying to give a talk and nothing he's saying is even making sense. Like, I do remember that, watching that. I remember my son showing me him talking and not even making sense with the prostitutes around him. I don't know if you guys remember that. Oh my God. I don't know. That was so disturbing.
But the even more fucked up thing about that is that there were people at those shows that were all over him saying, winning. It's like, really? You think a crackhead, just because he's a celebrity, is winning? It just shows how messed up we as a society have gotten if that is what you're calling winning. And you're like, he was selling out places. Like, how sick is that?
Well, let's talk about that, though, because that's the train wreck that people can't look away from. That's why Britney Spears still has so many followers on the things that she's doing on her Instagram. Like, granted, now it does appear that it's her choice and she's doing all of that on her own and not having someone tell her to do things. But like, our culture feeds into that. And I would imagine, as the celebrity in the spiral down, how addictive that is to still feel like you're relevant.
Yeah.
But how big was that? Because that whole chapter, like, I missed that. Do you know people that went to these events? Was it seriously everywhere, or was it like this subculture?
It went on for like a year. He traveled the country and sold out opera houses or places where concerts are. I mean, as the progression went down, he stopped making sense and they had to end it because he got so bad with the drugs. But it went on for quite a while. I mean, yeah.
I remember seeing some of the clips of people, they were saying, well, he didn't show up to one of them, or it was just completely incoherent because obviously it wasn't like a planned thing. So he was just going out there riffing, but obviously it was a mess. It's just, what do you expect? Like, what do you expect to see from somebody that's going through that?
Tamar, I want to go back to something that you touched on briefly, Denise Richards.
Mm-hmm.
So you clearly do not watch The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Oh, no.
I don't.
If you had, you would be. And didn't she have her own show with her kids? Didn't she also have, I'm pretty sure she had her own show. But I think, Dr. Sarah, I want to weigh in specifically on her because the codependency in that relationship feels very thick to me. And it's very clear she still loves him to this day. She said it, right? She said it. And she may have or is still, I don't know, battling some of her own things based off things I saw in Real Housewives. There's lots of reason to know that she's on her own journey, right? That felt very, but when kids are involved, like that just felt very hard to me.
So hard.
Yeah.
So pathological. I mean, it's like, I always say codependency kills people, and it does. Whether it kills people with their own addiction or like giving up their own lives to save someone else or whatever. Speaking of which, we'll do another thing on Elizabeth Gilbert's book. Whoever has not read it, you have to read it. She I talk about codependency, and I've never really talked about what happened to me with my husband, but she's like shooting up her girlfriend and paying for cocaine. I mean, it's so bad. Anyways, I do believe, and she talks about how bad it gets when you lose yourself. And that's what I thought about when I saw Denise Richards. I'm like, first of all, she looked just like not well. I mean, just physiologically looked like she'd been in and I don't watch the show, so I hadn't seen her like you, Tamar. I was shocked when I saw her. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I don't know if she's struggling with her own substances. She seemed really kind of out of it a little bit. And I mean, and then just the degree of like attachment to him and the preoccupation and the dependency. Oh, I agree. I mean, at least I don't know about her life, but man, talk about, how addiction affects people. It's just, that was wild.
I do. One of the things I will stand up for Denise Richards on, because I find this very admirable, is that she adopted, her youngest daughter is adopted, and her youngest daughter has special needs. And I find that so, and you can, I've seen, it was a little bit shown in this documentary, but I've seen other things with her in The Real Housewife. I really do think she has her own show, and I've watched it. I'm just not remembering the name of it. Like the love that she has for all of her girls, but particularly for her youngest daughter, I think is very sweet and very endearing and very commendable. And if I'm remembering correctly, because I didn't do enough research on her for this conversation, but I think she's also had some really rough relationships since Charlie, right? And so, she's definitely on her own journey. And I think that's probably extra hard as a woman in Hollywood, because not only can you not get away with the same things men can get away with and be glamorized for, you get, scarlet lettered for them, but also aging in Hollywood, it's not nice. It's not nice. No.
The other thing, didn't she say that she took care of Charlie's other kids for a year?
She did for a year.
Something
for a year.
That was talk about a name. I know. I don't know. Like it's a lot of things. And then I don't really know who the other, is it the last ex-wife or the one that followed Denise? That moment, I'd love to know, like, what was your emotional reaction at that moment where he's telling that she and a girlfriend are doing cocaine in the bedroom, and so like they're kind of being a problem, but then he comes in and like teaches them how to do crack, and like obviously sends that poor woman down a whole different trajectory from that,
because she was relapsing, right? She had been sober and clean because they both were, and she was relapsing. And I don't think she's back from her relapse based off of what I think we saw. And again, we're not here shaming anybody in their cups or in their bottom, because we've all been there. Like, that is not what this is about. But like, that's just, I think, how insidious Hollywood is, because it pulls you in with the glamour and the names and the money and the houses and the clothing and all of that. And how do you get, the fear of losing all of that, because it's so intertwined with the drugs and alcohol. I don't know. Well,
and the other thing is that, like, really, like you said it earlier, Elise, is that, people feed off of the chaos. People don't want to hear that couples are doing well and they're having a nice walk down to the coffee shop on a Saturday morning to grab their favorite tea or latte. Like, nobody cares about that kind of stuff. And so just imagining what the media actually does to those relationships by only focusing on the chaos. I mean, I'm sure we can all recall memories where we were in that chaos, and had that been broadcasted out to the whole entire world, like, how would we have handled ourselves, right? What would we have looked like? Probably crazy in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And so I think about, like, how Denise Richards, I mean, and what was that movie she was in with Nev Campbell?
Wild Things.
Like, I love that movie. I think that was my first, like, maybe there's
I bet
to
you
this.
did.
She was hot. I'm sorry. She was really hot.
Yeah.
But you think about, like, how quickly her stardom went, like, whoosh, right? And then she met Charlie Sheen, and that's all the media would pick out of that. Right.
Yeah.
And so adding to the chaos and making it even worse, and being like, I can't imagine what it would be like to have that amount of spotlight on me at all times. And it's all negative, right? Because it takes away the good. And I think the codependency, I mean, you could see it with all of them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's super common with all of us that are in recovery, but there was still that love there, which, if I had been I've been in an abusive relationship before, and he wasn't an awful guy, but I wouldn't say I still love him,
Something that made me think of that tomorrow when you were talking about, we feed off of the drama and all of that, is think about the time frame that this happened in Hollywood. This is all the early 2000s. This is when like peak time of like Star Magazine and National Enquirer, and when everybody's business was out there, and we treated celebrities like they were untouchable. And I feel like it's different now with the introduction of social media, and they just feel a little bit more accessible. They're able to control the narrative a little bit more because of that. But back then it was, especially, I feel like for women, that the media would just prey on celebrities like that. And that had to be a big part of that, I think.
Right.
I was curious to know what you guys thought of, and I wish I could remember the gentleman's name, but the gentleman who ended up cutting the coke and weaning him off.
And
his
getting
dealer. Physically sober.
The drug dealer.
I enjoyed, I don't know if that's the right word, the way he, partnered up, they got creative on like, how are we going to physically get this guy clean enough? Like, how are we going to do this? And I appreciated personally that there was no, this is the right or the wrong way to get clean and sober, and you should do this, and it looks like that. I'm appreciating, I think, the posturing that I personally feel like the documentary took in just, this is how it was. This is what we did. And I thought it was pretty open-minded. Sometimes I feel like, and maybe that's just because being in a 12-step world, things get a little bit dogmatic sometimes. So I thought that was pretty amazing. And I appreciated them sharing it.
Yeah. I think that was mind-blowing. That's like totally outside of an institution, giving like a whole other narrative of what it can look like, how beautifully ironic it was his drug dealer that was like trying to get him sober.
Yeah. He was a good drug dealer. He was giving back. Actually, he was taking away, really, when we think about it.
I thought it was interesting how the way he talked to you. So like, basically, I just got to the point, I don't know if he said these are the words, but he was like, I got bored of it. I got tired of it because it wasn't working anymore. And it just wasn't doing anything for him. But I also, one of the things that I didn't want to forget that I found so interesting, because after he quit the drugs, he turned to alcohol. And the thing that stood out to most of me in this documentary was he said alcohol was the worst of them all. Because I was, having, quit alcohol. It's like, wow, I never thought of it. Somebody that had been through all of that, and he says alcohol was the worst. That really stood out.
I think it's one of the reasons it's the worst is like you can always find a massive room of people who think it's totally cool and normal. Like pretty much any hour at any place in the world, maybe not in the world, but North America.
So true.
And so it's not demonized.
He had a couple of other lines that I wrote down that I wanted to mention. It's funny how secret wine and a coffee mug just turns into everything it wasn't supposed to be. And I thought that was a really powerful line, especially because I'm sure a lot of Gen X women were watching or will watch this documentary, and I'm going to guess many of them might be on their sober, curious journey. So I actually think that was a really powerful line. Another one he said was, the party was over, I just didn't know it yet. And that, that's not a new line. In my 20 years, I've heard that line 8,000 times, and I've probably said it myself 100 times. But that to me was where I did that's where you recognize he is one of us. Because if you don't know how that feels, you haven't walked the journey of addiction, I don't think, or, you haven't gotten there yet. And I thought that was really powerful. And then at the very end, And maybe this is why, Dr. Sarah, I walked into this today, like kind of ready to battle with you because I was like, no, this was great. But then you made your points and I was like, no, she's kind of right. But at the end, there was this line. And I think this is what kind of like, I don't have a great memory because I have killed a lot of brain cells. And so this line stood out to me as like a nice wrap at the end, which I want to get out of the way so that healing can occur. Fear is useless. Faith is necessary. Love is everything. And I thought that was really powerful and true. And, I also had some empathy for where he's at 7 years sober. I'm a wildly different person at 19 and a half years than I was at 7. And I actually look back at 7 years sober, Elise, and I was like, ooh, it's kind of cringy still, right? Kind of cringy still. And hey, I'm sure if I hit 25, 30 years, I'll look back at 19 and be like, what the fuck? You were on a podcast? But like, so you have to remember people are just where they're at and there's not a right or wrong way to get sober. There's also not a right or a wrong timeline. Like there are a lot of people that get sober, but they don't actually get into any healing or spiritual awakening or cleanup until they're at 5, 10, 15 years, right? So I do think that it took a lot of balls to put it all out there like that. Although, again, sleeping with men, not that courageous, Charlie. I am interested because, his memoir came out at the same time. And I know that Bill, Sober Not Mature Bill, has listened to the audio. And I'm curious what might be in the book that's not in the documentary. And so, but I think at the end, if I had to score this, I think, Sarah, my score comes down. Because I think you're right. I think for the sober and the recovery communities, celebrities especially have such big platforms. I feel like their responsibility is a little bit higher to really emphasize the after and not have so much focus on the glamorizing of the rock star life. And like, it would have been cool if there was a little more glamorization on the healing and the self-discovery. So I think for that, I will give this a 3.5. What about you, Dr. Sarah?
I would say, I know this is awful. I'd say a 2.5, but I will say that I talked to my sweetie today and he told me, because I told him I was writing the review, and he said, at meetings all week, people have been talking about it really positively. So I may have a really high bar, and I'm totally willing to say that, that I've been listening to stuff for so many years. But at the same time, some people who have 90 days of sobriety speak like freaking warriors and get right into it. So it's not just the time. But anyways, so, he is obviously, this is helping people, I'm sure on some level out there, everybody's interpreting the message differently. So God bless him, for putting it out there. So, I mean, that's the other side of it. Yeah.
All right. And Sarah, if you are willing to help Mel, right? Because she's letting
Robbins.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you be willing to help Charlie if you
Oh
reached
my
out
God,
to you?
yes, of course.
Okay, good.
All right,
That's all I wanted to know.
Of course I would be willing to help Charlie.
Good.
Carolyn, what Sobe score do you give this one?
I would say I would give it like a 3.75. I thought I found that it captured my attention. I'm going to just go from a point of view of, I thought it was really long. Each episode was like movie long, and I felt like it should have been 3 episodes instead of 2. So that's part of the reason.
Amy?
I'm going to steal Carolyn's number and give it a 3.75 as well.
She's our generous voter, everybody. At least she didn't give it a 5.
Well, you know what? You make fun of me when I give a 5. And so I'm like, what do? I liked it. The part I could have done without is the extended drunkalogue. Like, I felt like, okay, got it. And that part was a little bit depressing to me. And I almost kind of turned it off in the middle a couple times. But I loved the ending. And I felt like there was a lot of stuff that was redeeming for maybe not me personally, but in general. And I have to keep that in mind because like my thoughts and opinions on it kind of don't matter that much. I'm glad if it helps someone. And so I think that it will resonate with people. And I enjoyed it except for that middle part.
I think a 3.5 because I did appreciate that he had a long-term friendship in there, which, you know, I can respect because those people out there that will stick by our side while we're going through the worst of our worst, those people are gold, and everybody needs to have people like that in their lives. And clearly he did have somebody, right, that was willing to talk about everything. And also the fact that, you know, and I don't know if, you know, the purpose or the motive for doing the documentary, you know, I'm sure everybody assumes, oh, it's just money, whatever, but he could have done it at like 2 to 5 years sober. Instead, he waited 7 years if he truly has 7 years. So it's not like he did it right away to monopolize on his sobriety. He waited some time to do it. So I think, like Carolyn said, it was a little bit long. If they would have broken it out, maybe I would have given them a 4. And if they would have focused a little bit more on the recovery side of things, because that is where we need to start inspiring people on, like, what is it actually like? Like, great, you had fun with Nicolas Cage, you did all these cool things, whatever, and then your life turned into a big shit show. But like, what now? What are you doing other than being a present parent and, you know, friend? Great. That should be a given when you get sober kind of thing. I would have liked to see more of that.
Well, Tony gets a 5, to be clear. Like,
yeah,
we're all, we are
totally.
Yeah,
Team Tony.
Tony gets a 5. We are definitely Team Tony. Megan, what's your score?
I think I'm in the 3.5. I feel like maybe I'll just offer this perspective. As someone who has not been in any church basements, I'm not used to hearing drunkalogs. So I saw that as him showing, okay, you thought you were watching me do this, but here's what was going on in the background and what it was actually, you know, doing to the people around me and doing to my mind and body and doing to my career. And so, I mean, I didn't see that was particularly long. And sure, he could have gotten into more depth as to what recovery has looked like and maybe how it's evolved from year 1 to year 7. But I mean, I felt like him showing that he's showing up for his kids and that like he's now their number one go-to, like those were kind of like a guy's way of sharing those things. Like, I'm not sure you're going to get necessarily like this really enlightened, and then, you know, what we were saying about the facial expressions are maybe not quite there. And it just seems to me like it's his personality. He kind of like, there's like always like a little bit of dark humor. He's just making up for this very vacant self-esteem. But I thought it was entertaining.
Well, I actually really want to double down on what you just said about being someone who hasn't sat in a lot of church basements and hasn't heard a lot of drunkalogs or crazy stories over the years. That actually hit me when you said it and made me think, like, I think maybe that could be, Dr. Sarah, why, you know, your sweetie's been hearing that some people are having a really positive experience with it, because for those of us that have been around for a really long time, of course, we've consumed more of that kind of content. I'm just going to put it that way. So that actually, I'm really glad that you made that point, Megan. And I hope for our listeners at home, you can see what we're trying to do here. We're trying to have a pretty neutral conversation about how addiction and recovery is showing up in mainstream media and pop culture. And we're also trying to do it through the lens of different lengths of sobriety, different pathways to sobriety, so that ultimately we can provide you with the right curated information, because we know your time is valuable. Thank you for spending it with us as you choose to watch and consume content, whether it's documentaries or movies or TV shows or podcasts or books. That's really what we're here for, is to help guide you so that you can find the good things that are worth watching, or maybe save yourself a little time on what's not. Our collective score today, I did the math because math is fun and I have a calculator. Our collective score is 3.41 Sobies. So because we do round, it is going to end up at a 3.5, but I do give a nod to your 2.5, Dr. Sarah. I think that's very valid. And Amy, I'm actually giving you a 5 for not giving it a 5. Like, I actually think that you came in and you like really thought about the score. And I think there's been a lot of improvement in your scoring game. And I want to honor that. Mm-hmm.
Yay. Gold star. Improvement.
Balls up. We are so proud of you, Amy.
Balls up.
Silver balls.
Well, if there's something that you want us to watch or listen to, please slide into our DMs or email us at thesobercurator@gmail.com. Maybe you've checked out something else that we've reviewed and you're like, how come they haven't done a podcast on that? I want to hear what these ladies have to say. Get a hold of us. Do you want to come and be part of the conversation? Like, we're down. We're here. Obviously, we love to talk. Obviously, we love to Netflix and chill. So that's all the time we have. Remember that getting sober matters. Staying sober and finding awesome community like this powerhouse that I roll with, that's where it's at. And we wish that for you. Until next time. Thanks for tuning in because, let's be real, we're way more fun than your ex's drunk texts.
If you laughed, learned, or just need more of our voices in your life, honestly, I mean, who wouldn't? Hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, and send this episode to your sober or your I swear I'm only drinking on the weekends besties.
And if you have a story, feedback, or hey, maybe you just want to slide into our DMs like it's 2012, well, you know we're here for it. Find more curated magic at thesobercurator.com. And remember, getting sober matters, staying sober matters more. Until next time, keep it real, keep it fun, and keep it sober.